Good morning, everyone, board members, staff, guests. This is the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation regular Board of Directors meeting for May 9th, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order and first ask Essa to please take a roll call.
So today in attendance, we have a full board. We have Chair Gary Mackler, Vice Chair Carol Ryman, and Directors Sean Sasaki, Jason Bradshaw, Jay Kimura, Don Mende, Luis Salavera, Scott Glenn, and designee Mary Alice Evans.
We have a full present board to this. That's something we haven't had in quite a while. Thank you all. So as we go through today's meeting agenda, we will ask for testimony from the public, those who are here or attending remotely. And before we move on, I'd like to ask Gordon Pang if he could come up and lay down the ground rules for testimony.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Anyone wishing to present oral testimony today should indicate so to the chair. Oral testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, subject to the discretion of the chair. Your testimony must be related to an item on the board agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourself and spell out your name for the record. After your 3 minutes is over, I will call time. You'll also hear my phone go off, after which you will have 15 seconds to conclude your testimony. Please keep in mind that this is an opportunity for you to share your thoughts with the board. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer. For anyone wishing to submit written testimony, instructions for doing so are on the front page of the agenda under the section titled Public Testimony. For your cooperation.
Before we move into the agenda, I would like to take a moment of personal privilege. I want to acknowledge two of our board members, our Vice Chair, Carol Ryman, and our Secretary, Sean Sasaki, both of whom were recently confirmed to new terms on this board by the Senate, which I believe you'll be starting your new terms on July 1st. And I just want to congratulate both of you and just let you both know it's an honor to serve with you, and we really appreciate your volunteer service on this board. Thank you so much. Just want to make sure you come back in July. That's why. Okay, we're going to go on to our first item of the agenda, which is item 2A, and this is to approve the minutes for the regular meeting of April 11th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 3A. This is, we have staff that will be speaking on this item today. This is to approve resolution number 200, authorizing the issuance of Hula May multifamily tax-exempt revenue bonds for the Hale Mo'ili'ili project located in Honolulu, Oahu, PMK numbers 1-7-008, 018, and 020. I don't believe we are seeking an approval on this agenda item today, but David, please approve this.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. David Oy, Finance Manager. That is correct. We are not going to be seeking the board's approval today for resolution number 200. The project is still working towards meeting its final threshold items in order to bring the matter before the board to request approval of the resolution.
So are you recommending this to be deferred to the next meeting, or that we wait until the item that is pending to move forward is received? and then agendizing this.
Yeah, I would leave that to the discretion of the board. We don't have a timeline. Developers not provided a firm timeline as to when they may be expecting this final item to be received. Although either one would be an option, I would leave it to the discretion of the board because staff cannot provide a timeline at this point for when we anticipate that coming.
I'll ask any of the board members if you have any thoughts or comments.
I recommend deferring at this point. We're still in application.
Excuse me. Okay, I wasn't going to actually ask. I just wanted to comment. So, anyone else have any thoughts, comments?
Chair, I'd just like to note that this effort was brought up last month. We're still continuing to try to resolve the issues. So this has got multiple levels of government trying to problem solve and we're all pushing forward. So hopefully this gets resolved by next meeting or next month. But we'll keep.
So I think what maybe we should do is a week or a little more than a week before the next scheduled board meeting, see where things stand, and then make a decision whether to put this on the agenda or not.
Certainly, Chair. Excuse me, the project team has been very diligent in providing us updates multiple times a week on this issue. So the developer and his team has been putting this at the front right now, and they're working hard on this. So we will do that Friday.
Yeah. So, is there any dates that we can take into this like deadlines if we don't make it? We just need to time.
All our administrative deadlines for the bond issuance and for the RHRF are safe right now, so we're within our timelines. So nothing is imminent at this point. If there were anything imminent, we will bring that to the board's attention and we will address that immediately.
Yep. Okay, so with that, I guess we'll just move on to item 3B, and this is to approve resolution number 2001, authorizing the issuance of Hula May multifamily tax exempt revenue bonds for the HPHA School Street redevelopment phase 1A in Honolulu, Oahu, TMK number 1-6-009-003. And just update the board as well. I don't think we're ready to take action today on this agenda item, but listen.
Yes, certainly, Chair. So this item as well, Resolution 201, this one will not be brought before the board today for approval. The state has, again, different thresholds that must be met in order for a project to come before the board and seek the board's approval. State staff has been working extremely hard to bring that to meet these thresholds. The developer's been working extremely hard to meet these requirements as well. Unfortunately, they weren't able to meet those in the timeline required to bring it forth today. We do expect these to be imminent at this point, but in order to bring the matter today and to keep our process intact, we weren't able to bring this to the board's attention.
Okay. So I know ESSA has been checking on the availability of board members to be available next week for a special meeting to consider this agenda item for approval as early as next Wednesday, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
To accommodate and have that special meeting and complete the process for this. Is there any thoughts of board members on this discussion? I mean, is that acceptable for staff?
Yes, we anticipate the final item that we're waiting on to be resolved today.
Okay.
That's our anticipation. Sincerely appreciate the board's consideration and the extra time to do and accommodate a special meeting. Staff at the project appreciate the board's willingness to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Then with that, I guess we can go on to item 3C, which is to approve a deferred start date and amend the annual debt service payment amount for rental housing revolving fund loan for the Hale Puhiwai Nalu Edition project located in Kapolei, Oahu, TMP number 1-9-1-013-054. Is there a motion to approve? We have a second. Is there anyone in the public who would like to give testimony on this agenda item?
We do have representatives for Hollywood Vainalu here. We have one representative here, Ms. Rochelle Taylor. We also have the Mr. Thomas Cantwell Jr. joining us virtually to address any questions or concerns the board may have at this time. However, there's no prepared statements.
Okay.
The board would like for Ms. Taylor to come up this time.
Well, do you want to go ahead and present the 4 actions first, and then if Ms. Taylor would like to come up after that?
Perfect.
Great.
So good morning, Chair Mackler, all of our board members. I'm Tina Morita. I'm a housing finance specialist here with the finance branch at HHFDC. And yes, I am presenting the 4 action to approve a deferred start date and amend the annual debt service payment amount for a rental housing revolving fund loan for the Hale Uhi Vainalu addition project located in Kapolei, Oahu. The project's original RHRF loan award was based on the following terms: a principal loan amount of $4 million with a loan term of 30 years, no interest in years 1 through 8, and a simple interest rate of 4% applied at the beginning of year 9. Annual payments of $269,236.23 would be payable every May 31st, with final principal and interest payments due on May 31st, 2046. On September 27th, 2023, the awardee submitted a request to defer its RHF loan repayment start date and extend the loan repayment period. A copy of the request letter is provided as Exhibit A in the 4 action document. HHFDC's finance branch, reviewed the request, the original terms of the loan agreement, and held telephone discussions with representatives of the project. Based on the information gathered, the recommendation to this board is to amend the RHRF loan repayment start date to May 31st, 2028, to change the repayment amount to $350,000 per year, payable every May 31st through May 31st, 2046, and to approve of the remaining items outlined in Section 4, Part B, execution of amended documentation satisfactory to the HHFDC, outlining the terms and conditions of the amended RHRF note. The documents shall specify the standard terms and conditions as required to meet all statutory requirements of the RHRF program and the specific terms and conditions that are applicable to the awardee's request for loan terms modification. Part C, completion of all documentation necessary and required to secure the repayment of RHRF funds. And Part D, to authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this 4 action. With the board's approval, the finance branch will then be able to draft and execute the necessary documents to effectuate the amended terms and allow the project to repay the RHRF loan with minimal disruption to the project and its operations. Representatives of Hale Uhi Vainalu are present virtually and in person to address any questions and concerns, as stated previously. At this time, I'd like to call up Ms. Rochelle Taylor, Director of Cloudbreak Community's Hawaii Campus. And joining us online is Mr. Thomas Cantwell Jr., who is the Manager Member of Cloudbreak Hawaii LLC and CEO of Cantwell Anderson, Inc.
Good morning. Before you get started, Mary Ellis, Director Evans, has a question.
Thank you for setting up a proposal to do family units. Those are much needed here. But my question is, what kind of families would fit into the studios? I noticed they're all 50-year students.
So Collaborative Communities is actually a veteran priority campus. So the studios is basically we're actually on the VA land, so we actually are generating everything for veteran status, a priority, I should say. So all the studios are set up as single occupancy. So it is still considered as family since it's multi-units, but yes, it is for single occupancy with the priority for veterans.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I noticed that the approach rent is different. Are there different sizes of students, or just different, more attractive views, or what's the basis for the different?
Right. So because we do go by the guidelines for affordable housing, this is based upon the income that's coming in. So these are the set aside amounts that are in there. This building here has 30, 50, 60, and 80% set aside. So that's the difference in that you see in the cost there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Chair, thank you. That answers my question.
Any other questions, board members? Is there, did you want to say anything?
No, that's the only thing I had questions.
Great so far. Are there any,
Question.
you have a question during the meeting?
With the new terms, is the interest gonna continue to calculate from the regular, or are we gonna push back the interest calculation?
The interest calculations will begin as originally designed on year 9 and will continue to accrue through full repayment. So that is partially why the annual debt service payment has increased to $350,000. You will also notice that the final repayment date has not changed. So the project has been willing to work with us to keep most of the terms the same in order to get the fund revolving again.
One more.
Oh, sure.
Can the project handle that increase debt service payments?
It will be able to, by the time the first payment is due in year 2028, the senior debt should be paid off to the senior lender, so they will have sufficient funds.
Okay, thank you.
Because I can't do complex math right now, but wasn't an analysis done with regards to the change in the net present value of the income stream going forward, since we are deferring it for another 4 years? For full disclosure to the board, understanding, because there is a financial increased cost to the board.
Understood.
Yeah.
I will need to check our notes on that and get back to the board. Right now, I do not recall off the top of my head an analysis being done in terms of the financial value gained or lost with the deferral start date. So I will get back to you, at least via email, if not in person at the next meeting.
Okay, if not, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item is 3D, which is to approve ratification of the short-term ground lease to the Federal Emergency Management Agency for temporary housing at the villages of Le'ali'i in Lahaina, Maui, TMK number 2, 4-5-021021. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a second. Is there anyone in the public who would like to offer testimony on this agenda item? Is there someone in the back?
Good morning, board members, Mr. Chair. Mahalo for the opportunity to provide testimony. For the record, my name is Boston Pitera. I'm a lineal descendant of Lahaina, and my family was directly impacted by the wildfire. I also serve as the advocacy director for Kaleo Kupono Okaina. It's a housing advocacy organization. I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony and support of this action. I have a little bit of a concern because the community was saying that the temporary housing, both from the state as well as FEMA, was going to be for a 5-year period, but your lease term here shows that it's only for 2 years with an extension for an additional year. So I'm not sure if there should be further conversation with FEMA. See, we need to make sure that the community in Lahaina, particularly the directly impacted victims, are made whole and get out of the hotel rooms into a place where they have substantial time to kind of settle down and work on the emotional trauma that this fire had on them. I'm not sure if a 2-year time frame will be sufficient for the county and the state to address a more permanent solution for these families. There are over 1,200 families that have been impacted. And between the state and FEMA, we're looking at about 620 units. And I know that the FEMA is concentrating solely on the non-FEMA eligible, which is most likely the homeowners that haven't either lost their insurance or inadequate insurance claims. I don't know if 2 years is going to be enough for them to recover to be able to rebuild on the property. So, a consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to give testimony? If not, I will call Mr. Fujimoto. Morning, Stan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Stan Fujimoto with the development section. The Villages of Leali is HHFDC's 1,100 acre master plan community in Lahaina, Maui. In 1994, HHFDC acquired approximately 544 acres below the proposed Lahaina Bypass Highway. August 8, 2023, Maui suffered wildfires which claimed over 100 lives and destroyed most of Lahaina. In December 2023, HHFDC, County of Maui, and FEMA began discussions about the possibility of using the undeveloped lands at the Villages of Leali for temporary housing for displacees of the Maui wildfires. On March 29, 2024, HHFDC executed a short-term ground lease with FEMA for approximately 40 acres at the Villages of Leali for approximately 169 temporary housing units. Major terms of the ground lease are as follows. The lessee is FEMA. Purpose is temporary housing for displacees of the Maui wildfires. The term is 2 years with 1 year option to extend. The lease rent is gratis. The location is adjacent to and north of the Kaiaulu or Kikuia project. The name of FEMA's project is Kilohana. The property is conveyed in as-is condition. FEMA will remove all improvements from the property, except improvements that HHFDC agrees may remain at the conclusion of the ground lease. This for action seeks an after-the-fact ratification of the ground lease to FEMA for temporary housing at the Villages of Leali for displacees of the Maui wildfires, substantially as discussed in this for action.
Yes.
So I'm familiar with the area and I was wondering, is there water in that area to service that?
I think there is our obligation or our discussions with FEMA is they will need to work that out with the county board of water supply.
And my second question is, Mr. Terra had a good point about, 2-year term. Is there a possibility of extending that, and how would that work?
Yes, it would be amenable to extending whatever they propose. This is the extent of the lease that they wanted to sign.
I can clarify FEMA's program authorized them to provide housing for 2 years. They can seek extensions to provide housing for a longer term, but that requires special approval. So of course, they obtain that approval and want to seek a longer ground use, then yes, we would bring this back to the board, extend the ground use.
Should FEMA decline to request an extension or something on that? Is it possible that underlying landowner, HHFDC, accept the project and continue to allow the displaced since
That could be a possibility. We'd have to work that out with FEMA as far as ownership of the structures that are there. That could.
Anyone else?
Just clarification, this is just for FEMA parcel, or this does not,
Right. Well, if you look at exhibit A, FEMA property is shown outlined in red. The DHS project, which is a state project, that is also temporary housing that is being built. It's under a right of entry. It's not coming to the board with our lease to DHS, but I will explain more about this in our report.
Okay. Just to check and understand. So FEMA is asking for a lease, but their congressional authorization only allows them for 2 years. That's a 1-year possibility. So that's what they asked for. Publicly, they've committed to wanting to be here longer if they're allowed to be. So they asked to us is to approve a lease that they're able to commit to legally right now.
That's correct.
Okay. So can we maybe make a statement, or can we send something in our minutes or our approval to Congress saying we're approving it for 2 + 1 for your request, but we would also like to be able to have this be there longer and available for survivors? Just kind of let everybody know we're agreeing. If we vote yes, we're agreeing to this, but we also want you guys to be here longer.
That could be reflected in the minutes.
can we just ask if they're willing to add 2 more additional extensions subject to that rule? Just to make it 5 years. Two commitments with 3 1-year options at there.
Suppose there's no charge to FEMA for when they want to terminate early for any reason they could.
Yeah.
I like that. Is that to the motion, or just is that understood in the terms of?
So right now, the motion is to ratify what's already been entered into.
Can we just request if we would to play 2 additional 1-year options on top of it, just to reconcile so that we're at 5 years?
Can do that.
I mean, I have no problem moving into it now, but if they're amenable to it, then we can just come back later and just do an amendment to that.
All right. Thank you. Good discussion. So I guess we're with questions. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. 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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, going on to item.
Got a kilo.
Oh. Go on to item 3, section 3E. And this is to approve 1, the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation's purchase of equity in designated units in the Modea and Adaptive Reuse Condominium Project in downtown Honolulu, located at 168 Queen Street, Honolulu, Hawaii, TMK number 12-1-14001, in accordance with Chapter 15-309 Hawaii Administrative Rules, and 2, set aside a dwelling unit revolving fund equity pilot program funds for the project. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Before you present, I do want to ask if there's anyone in the public that would like to offer testimony on this agenda item. Hearing none.
Morning, Chair, members of the board, Lorna Koitani for the State Services Technician. I'm pleased to come back to the board to bring this project to you for review and approval for this dwelling unit revolving fund pilot program, or the DFP program that was recently was approved or established a year ago to address the high demand for sale housing for residents. This program is unique in that it can be used not only for the HHFDC assisted projects, but as we'll see today, for non-HHFDC projects, like the Madea. And the developers representative is here, and they will also provide a presentation. This dwelling unit revolving fund of the DP program is a recent addition to the agency's collection of resources intended to promote homeownership opportunities. In this particular case, especially for professionals working in the industry facing a shortage such as healthcare, education, law enforcement, and agriculture. As indicated, this program is specifically for Hawaii residents who own no other real property, so first-time home buyers, receive no gift funds, and work in the profession facing the shortage, so we are the target group. HHFDC purchases equity in specified starting units at specified amounts in for sale housing development projects approved by the board of directors. A total of $10 million from the DERF fund was earmarked for this program, and in February of this year, the initial award was made in an amount of $2.5 million. And the remaining available budget will allow an allocation for the Madea project. The Madea project seeks to anchor a reimagining and transformation of downtown Honolulu from pre-pandemic office-focused district to a vibrant 24/7, 365 mixed-use community to include market buyers and the target for this program. In April of this year, Avalon Group Development submitted their request to participate in our program. A total of 352 residential units, office and ground floor retail space, which is identified in Exhibit A of this for action. Initially, their proposal called for 25 units as indicated in Section 2, 12 studio units and 13 one-bedroom units at the AMI amount of 140%, with HHFDC's equity of $100,000 for each unit, with a total of $2.5 million. After review of the project and the type of units being offered, we countered their proposal, to which they approved, as listed in Section B, for the same 25 units, except for the fact that HHFDC's equity is 15% of the sales price for the studio units and 10% for the one-bedroom, one-bath. The net effect of that is really an actual amount, AMI amount of 120% and 130%, reducing the total equity to $1,708,050, which allows for further allocation in other projects, or if this project is successful, possible to use more funds. The recommendation is that the units designated in Exhibit B be the maximum amount of units at the allocated amounts, that the HHFDC is able to purchase equity in the units to qualify purchasers, and execution of an agreement with us and the developer, and giving the executive director authorization to take whatever is necessary to effectuate the purposes of this board action.
Before we open up the questions, we should ask to have the presentation.
Yes, yes. So from Avalon Development Company is Ben Duchucha. He's the Chief Investment Officer, and he will present.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Ben Duchucha. I'm the Chief Investment Officer of Avalon Group. Christine Camp, our founder and CEO, she sends her regards. She's actually speaking at she's the featured speaker at a National Women's Conference today, which, as you know, is sort of an indication of sort of her amazing story. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I wanted to give sort of a two-part presentation. First, I wanted to give a presentation about downtown Honolulu, which I'm sure many of you are aware, but or folks in the room, folks on the call, downtown Honolulu is already in the process of rebirth and revival. Obviously, COVID has hit every downtown around the world very hard. But what's special about Honolulu, I think, is the fact that we have a team of folks, not just real estate people, but people in the community, elected officials. The neighborhood board we just presented to last week was very supportive. Groups like HHFDC, we are very thankful for your support of our project. And as you'll see in this first part of the presentation, we've got a lot going on in downtown. So just very quickly, first, this is a chart. It's hard to read, but basically what this is saying is there's $1.8 billion of investment that's happened downtown since the pandemic. So that includes not just housing, but for example, there's a hotel. Hawaii Pacific University has made a major effort to reconsolidate their campus into downtown to make that school a downtown university. A number of commercial buildings, office revitalizations, and the 4th Street Mall is being revitalized as well. So just to go through some of the things, HEMIC acquired the former ASB building in 2019. As you know, ASB created their own brand new headquarters just a little bit outside of downtown. So this building sat empty for a good amount of time. But in 2021, HEMIC brought 100 employees back to downtown. Central Pacific Bank, $40 million investment, started right around the pandemic in 2020, completed a year later. This has been a great addition to the downtown landscape. There's not just for people who work at the bank, but others downtown, places to eat, and co-work. Also, our partners at WKF have done an amazing job bringing global brands like Daiso and Marukame Udon downtown. These are both on Hotel Street. If you know the Marukame Udon, if you've been to Daiso in Japan, there are lines out the door. But I'm telling you, if you want to go, you can come downtown, and there's basically, not many lines at all. Paris Baguette is a Korean bakery chain. It's a global brand. They just opened in downtown, and they do have massive lines still to this day. The opening of the downtown Honolulu Paris Baguette was the highest grossing opening in the entire Paris Baguette chain, which is an amazing fact. It really goes to show the latent demand for 24/7 community in downtown Honolulu, which is what we're trying to build. And Hawaii State Federal Credit Union, June 2023, this building sat largely empty for a very long time, and they brought 230 employees back downtown. Hawaiian Host, Mauna Loa Macadamia Nuts just bought this building and made it their headquarters. And I think they're planning to make the ground floor a sort of boutique. This is right off of 4th Street Mall, Merchant Street. And of course, the AC Hotel. This is the first new hotel in downtown in a very long time since Executive Center was built. This is a beautiful hotel. They are near 100% occupancy almost every day. Really shows the strong demand for a hotel downtown. So not necessarily for folks, going on vacation, but for folks who have business in the city center. So a couple of things that Avalon is doing in addition to Modea. We are working with Hawaii Pacific University to create the lab space for their College of Natural and Computational Sciences. This is a building, if you see that picture on the left, Walmart is on the left. This is on 4th Street Mall between King Street and Hotel Street. And so we're building their lab facility. This is opening just this coming school year. And then, as you may have read, we Avalon Group purchased the former Walmart Liberty House Macy's site. Just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, we're looking to transform that into a sort of recreational facility, both for humans in the form of pickleball and batting cages and sports dining and entertainment, as well as a destination dog park, because we recognize from personal experience that a lot of times folks with dogs are the first ones to make connections in the community. And so because the King Street apron there is so large, as you may know, at this part of the street, it's almost like double wide. We thought that'd be a great space to have a dog park that could really be a focal point of the community. And as you know, obviously the Hawaii Theater is just across the street on Bethel Street, so it just makes a lot of sense to activate this space, 4th Street Mall, and the downtown. Okay, so to talk about Modea specifically, it is the former Davies Pacific Center. And I thought the best way to show you what it's about is to show you our internal, we call it our hype video. It's basically our brainstorm of what we wanted to do and what the character of this project that is going to hopefully anchor a new transformation of downtown from the 9-to-5 community that it is today, but it's already changing into a 365, 24/7 community. So that I will turn this on for the sound works.
If I cut my hair, hope I grow it long back time like way before. If I wear it straight, will they like me more? Like those girls on front covers. Long hair, make them stay little longer. Stay hair, stay straight, though we feel the shame. By the curls, waves, and natural things. Curls, waves, and natural things. Okay, one time if I grow it long, am I good enough? Am I good enough? About time I embrace myself and soul. Time I feed myself and soul. It's been so long since I had a soul. What if I was the color? If I cut it all off, will it even grow? Need to grow back real long. Gotta prove it. Alright, I don't want no struggles. I don't want no fears. I don't want no struggles. I don't want no fears. I don't want no struggles. I don't want no. Does it make sense to you? I cut it off. Okay, one time if I grow it long, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Now time I embrace myself and soul. Time I feed myself and soul. I don't really wanna follow tricky, trendy little things. Hollywood will make you hollow. I'm too rooted in my ways. I don't really wanna follow tricky, trendy little things. Bitches all the straight hollows. I'm too rooted in my ways. He just called me on a Tuesday. My Zion just broke down on the freeway. I'm not bothered anymore by these things. But destiny doesn't faze me. That's okay, I'll manifest a Mustang. Not to be vague, just love the way it rains. Doesn't faze me. Not destiny doesn't faze me.
Happy to answer any questions you might have about the project or about our work. Thank you for your time.
Just curious, what's the typical square footage of the studios in the one there?
So the average square footage is about 500 square feet. for the one bedrooms. And for the studios, I want to say around 400 square feet. They vary in size, plus or minus 100 square feet. So.
Yes. The 25 designated
Yep.
HHFDC's commitment shared activated upon purchase. Is that something transferred to some point of development?
My thought was that it would be activated on purchase. It would be like once the units close and are owned by the new owners, it would sort of be as if it were part of their mortgage, for example.
Another question.
Yes.
What's the current? This isn't it? No. What's the current estimate for the monthly maintenance fee for the AOAO?
So we're still actively working on that. For an average unit, our estimate is something around $600. We're trying to get it as low as possible. Not to get into all the gory details, but as you know, insurance costs have massively increased for condominiums, and that on a per square foot basis, for example, we're finding it's up to 40 cents a square foot a month for insurance costs for condominiums, which is typically we target $1 a square foot as like a baseline, right? And with these costs tripling compared to pre Lahaina fire, with all the things happening around the world, that it seems very difficult to get to that level. So that's what we're sort of estimating at this point. We're definitely trying to decrease that number.
So estimated amount of maintenance fee for these 25 designated units, does that bring the monthly payment for the buyer up above what normally like to see for these income amounts?
I don't think so. I think it's, and I would need to check, with the team on the math around it. But this is my understanding is that it still keeps the sort of like AMI equivalent at or below 140%. But I have to check on the specifics of it.
So questions?
AMI is still like what, 16 AMI.
Oh, no, not this.
Unfortunately, yeah.
AMI.
I will defer to the experts.
It's 140% and below.
Well, that's what you're that's the target. But for 140% of the AMI, it's AMI is 60.
I want to say for a two-person household, and I'm just going from memory here. Again, experts are in the room here. I want to say it's almost 100,000 for a family of two or five. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the presentation. There are no further questions. I will ask for the motion. All those in favor, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll go on, Dadu. Okay, we'll move on to item 3F agenda. This is to approve the State of Hawaii program year 2024. It is July 1st, 2024 through June 30, 2025. Annual action plan for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Community Planning and Development's Home Investment Partnerships, Housing Trust Fund, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS programs. Can I have a motion to approve? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Turn it over to Carrie. Is there anyone that would like to offer testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none, we'll turn it over to the CEO.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. My name is Carrie Higa, and I'm a planner here at HHFDC. This for action seeks your approval of the 2024 annual action plan covering the period from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, and authorization for the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to submit and implement the action plan. The plan covers HUD's Home Investment Partnerships Program, the Housing Trust Fund Program, and the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS programs. The intent of these federal programs is to strengthen communities and provide decent, affordable housing for families and special needs populations. Annually, HHFDC rotates its home funds among Hawaii, Kauai, and Maui counties. For 2024, HHFDC will receive $3 million in home funds. HHFDC will award the funds to the County of Hawaii, which will use funds toward the development of affordable rental units and increasing home ownership units for families earning 80% of the area median income or below. The home program requires that 15% of the allocation be set aside for a community housing development organization or a CHODO. And the County of Hawaii plans to use its CHODO funds toward a home buyer and or rental activity. The planned allocation of program 2024 home funds is shown in the first table on page 3 of the board report. The Homeless Programs Office of the State's Department of Human Services administers the HHFDC program, under which DHS will receive $307,914. Funds will be used toward providing financial assistance and services to individuals with HIV or AIDS who are homeless and at risk of homeless. On page 3, the second table displays the program year 2024 plan allocation and activities under the HHFDC program. Under the National Housing Trust Fund program, HUD recently announced HHFDC's 2024 allocation of approximately $3,144,833. I'd like to point out that the estimated HTF allocation of $3 million is shown throughout the board report. Please note the following revisions. On page 2, under section 2, facts, item D, program year 2024 CPD program allocations, the HTF allocation should be revised to $3,144,833. The same revision should be applied to page 3 under section 3 discussion, item D, National Housing Trust Fund. And the table on page 4 should reflect $2,830,349.70 for Hawaii County's production or preservation of rental units and $157,241.65 for Hawaii County's administration of the program. Likewise, HHFDC's share of admin should be revised to $157,241.65. Hawaii County will use HTF program funds toward the production or preservation of rental housing for extremely low income families earning 30% of the area median income or below. Again, the table on page 4 shows the plan allocation for HTF 2024. The state's program year 2024 annual action plan focuses on the allocation of funds by activity type and objective instead of specific projects. Upon the selection of each project, the County of Hawaii will inform the community of their selections by issuing a 30-day public notice containing detailed project information along with a 30-day comment period. The program year 2024 draft annual action plan was subject to a 30-day public comment period and no comments were received. The application of the action plan is also an application for home HTF and HOPO funds due to HUD this year by July 4th. which is 60 days after the actual allocation amounts were announced on May 7th. If approved, we anticipate submitting the action plan to HUD once necessary signatures are obtained and well before the deadline. That concludes this presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions, board members? I just have a quick question. So the Hawaii is using home at HDF tandem for the same project.
Yes.
Good. I think that's getting different targets with those sources of financing. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And anyone else have any comments or questions? Not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. That brings us to item 3G, which is to approve a modification to award of request proposals number 12-003-DEB, partnering to preserve affordable housing, Keikualani Gardens and Naniopuna, and 2, an increase to the dwelling unit revolving fund budget for improvements to the Naniopuna Affordable Housing Project located in Puna, Waiak, Kahiula, Pahoa, Hawaii, TMK number 31-5-002-023. Is there a motion to approve? Second. First ask Chris before you go on. Is there anyone in the public that would like to offer testimony on this agenda item? Hearing none, we'll turn it over to Chris Woodard. Good morning.
Board Chair, members of the board. We're going to go back in time a little bit on this one. So Naniopuna is a project that was completed in 1976. It consists of 32 units for our farm laborers located in Pahoa, and it's owned and fee simple by HHFDC and managed by Hawaii Affordable Properties Incorporated. This project is encumbered by Section 514 USDA Rural Development Farm Labor Housing Mortgage Loan. It has a current outstanding balance of approximately $44,000, and it matures in just a few years in April 2027. Section 514 program provides loans to buy, build, improve, or repair housing for farm laborers. What comes along with this loan is a Section 521 rental assistance agreement from USDA. And basically that functions kind of like Section 8 voucher, Section 8 project-based program, where the tenant pays the difference between 30% of their monthly gross income and the actual rents. And then the rents for this project have to actually be approved by USDA every year. So it's based on what our expected expenses are. In 2012, HHFDC issued an RFP basically seeking a buyer for this project and also the Keikualani Gardens project in Kapolei. That was also financed by a USDA loan. And we're seeking to sell both properties subject to a long-term ground lease, keep them affordable, and have the buyer invest in renovations for the project. The board approved an RFP award to Vitus Group in early 2013, and the sale of Keikualani closed a few years later in 2016. That was actually financed through low-income housing tax credit program. And that closing occurred after HHFDC agreed to bifurcate the two closings. Originally, it was supposed to be a portfolio sale where both projects were sold at the same time. And the reason for that was the eruption at Kilauea that occurred beginning in 2014, ran a couple of years. During that time, property insurance was widely unavailable in the Puna district of Hawaii. We also had an issue whereby the USD appraisal requirements for Kikuilani Gardens basically restricted the sales price. And the effect of that was that there were proceeds from the sale of Kikuilani Gardens that were supposed to be turned around and plowed into Nani Puna for renovations. And that just kind of, evaporated due to this appraisal requirement. It restricted the price at which we could transact, basically. And then on top of that, there was a reorganization. Actually, I think there were two reorgs, but at least one major reorg of USDA that began in 2017 under the Trump administration. So in 2020, the board approved modifications to the RFP award. There were three. The first was to establish a $2 million construction reserve escrow to be funded by the Dwelling Unit Revolving Fund. And that was to help pay for renovations to the Nani Puna project. So basically that was taking the place of the Kikuilani Garden sale proceeds that were supposed to be plowed back into the project that we no longer were able to do. Let's see. The second was we agreed to top off a shortfall in the replacement reserve account that was required by USDA. At the time, it was pretty significantly underfunded. That's not currently the case. It's fully funded now. But that's a replacement reserve account that was required by USDA. And basically was going to be a condition of the sale to the buyer to make sure it's fully funded. And there is also a change in the RFP awardee from Vitus Group to Nani Puna LP, which is a venture between AHE Group and a nonprofit called Affordable Housing and Economic Development Foundation. Some of you may know that the principal owner of AHE Group used to be, I guess, the regional director for Vitus, Makaima Eva. So around this time, she left Vitus and formed her own business and worked out a deal with Vitus to take this kind of project with her. So that was August 2020 that we made those modifications that were approved by the board. Shortly thereafter, the buyer submitted its application to assume and restructure the existing loan. We entered into a PSA and we had hoped to close by the end of, by mid-September 2022. Unfortunately, another case of bad timing. The pandemic disrupted this project among many other things. And also, USDA was just slow to process and act on the loan assumption and restructuring request. And so we came back to the board in September 2022 to seek an $800,000 increase in that DERF construction reserve that was to be funded to a total of $2.8 million. That was largely to cover, increased costs. And, there hasn't been much good news since September 22, unfortunately. USDA has been really slow on this transaction. And I believe that Joelle Chu with the buyer is participating by Zoom, and she can give you a little bit more detail on kind of what the challenges in working with USDA have been, but I'll leave that for later. So not only was USDA slow in acting on the application, but the general contractor that the buyer had lined up bowed out. But recently, some positive news in March. The buyer received a revised construction bid proposal from a new general contractor. Unfortunately, the renovation cost is $1,500,000 higher than we had estimated in July 2022. On top of that, USDA may require that all of the roofs at the project be replaced. They're corrugated metal. And that's going to tack on another $500,000 to the renovation cost. Alternatively, it's questionable whether the roofs need to be replaced at this time or even soon. But the alternative is that, well, if USDA is going to require it, either we have to come up with the cash up front to fund it, or it's going to have to be built into the replacement reserve deposits, which will basically kill the deal because it kills the cash flow for the buyer. I didn't mention this, but you'll see it in the attached historical for action. But the buyer had secured a $750,000 federal home loan bank grant back in 2019. Director Sasaki, there's a picture of him with a giant check at one point. That was a long time ago that grant was awarded. We're very lucky that Federal Home Loan Bank stuck around, but they're not going to stick around much longer. Just FYI. We need to figure out a way to finance the renovation cost shortfall. And the way that we're asking to do that is to have DERF contribute an additional $2 million to the project. So that letter request was made to us in April. It's attached as Exhibit B. That would bring total DERF funding up to $4.8 million for the sale. If you think about it, at 32 units, that's $150,000 a unit. This is the last. We ignore the Haleola EA project, that a Guy Institute property that we bought. This is the last operating multifamily project in our portfolio. It's a small one. It's located in Puna. If we don't fund the additional $2 million, I think the plan will be to hold the asset through the USDA loan maturity date, which is 2027. We can't, the loan doesn't allow for early prepayment. So we're going to have to hold the asset for a few years. And I would propose to remarket the property as just a run-of-the-mill affordable housing project sale with no farm worker housing requirement, which I think it makes the project more marketable. But on the flip side, we're going to lose the farm worker housing. So I don't think we really want to go there. If we do hold on to the asset for a few more years, we've been deferring maintenance for too long. We're going to have to invest DERF funds in the project anyway. And, we're going to have to do it within the confines of the public procurement code. We're not going to do it very efficiently, I don't think. Certainly not as efficiently as a private buyer could do it. And we're just going to do Band-Aid fixes until we can find a buyer. So I don't really see the alternative as being a very attractive one. And so that's why we're proposing for the additional $2 million from DERF. There are sufficient funds in DERF to fund that amount. I've summarized kind of where the DERF cash availability is today at the bottom of page 3. We've got 34 and change million available. There's an additional $50 million that was appropriated for fiscal 2024. That's not included. And we're anticipating a couple of sizable loan payoffs that will take place. Actually, it's not going to be May now, it'll be June. But that's a total of $26 million in additional cash going into there. So plenty of funds available. Staff's recommendation is that the board approve the following. First is to modify the award of requests for proposals for the Kuilani Gardens and Nani Okuna RFP. The second is to increase the DERF budget for improvements to the Nani Okuna project, subject to the availability of funds and the release of such funds by the governor. Each substantially on the terms described herein, while allowing for modifications as may be deemed reasonable in the executive director's sole and absolute discretion, and undertake any actions related thereto, and also authorize the executive director to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this fraction. That concludes the staff presentation, Chair. Again, I do have, I hope, Joelle Chu on by Zoom. I don't know that I see her up there.
Let me just at this time open it up to ask questions of Chris.
Chris, in relation to the placement policy, in wake of the Maui wildfires, we've been looking at the fact that metal roofs actually have some resilience.
Sure.
And may actually be a positive option for homes in rural areas with a fair amount of fuel load. It might slightly higher risk. Is this something that USDA is requiring or are they recommending option for that replacement?
So, thanks. So, good question. So the existing roofs are metal. It's a question of whether they need to be replaced at this time or not. I'm not aware that USDA is requiring or recommending that they be replaced kind of like for like with metal. But the intent would be to replace them with corrugated metal roofs. Yeah. So we would replace it like for like. Is my understanding of what the buyer developers what their position is on that. Yeah.
Sure, thank you. That answers my question.
Anyone else with questions?
I kind of want to make a statement that the area rates so much that just sounds everybody just puts been working with it so well on that area. But I just wanted to like that Popo is really still a real rural area with a lot of farms and other types of farming. So we have farming residences, I think it would be
If I may.
What's the occupancy?
Oh, it's 100%, like almost all the time. Yeah. You know, we'll have a vacancy here and there, but it gets filled up almost. As long as it takes them to turn the unit, that's how long it takes to re-tenant it. I should mention that with the buyers, the reason why the buyer wants to assume and restructure the USDA loan is to not only, it's not really to extend the loan term, it's to extend the rental assistance that comes along with the loan. And so that's huge. I mean, if you look at what these tenants pay, they're paying extremely affordable rates because it's based on their income. And it really helps them out because they're in these relatively low wage positions in an industry that, you know, is not very high paying. So it's really critical to keeping the property affordable to that farm labor population. And yeah, the demand is there. It's full all the time. Admittedly, it's not a large project, right? It's 32 units, but it's full all the time.
And I mean, there's tourism. So
Yeah, we got like 3-4 years left. 3 years left, I believe. April 2027. It's a 1% interest loan.
I mean, we take it every time, right? Extending and restructuring the debt loan, probably continued support from USDA for the rental assistance.
Exactly. Yes, it would. That's really the key to the deal.
Questions?
Just reading the letter from Mario Puna, it does sound like replacement of and the chain fit required as part of the deal.
So we don't know that yet. We don't have like we don't have a final answer from USDA on that yet.
Yeah, because it's in Mario Puna's letter, but it's not from USDA.
Right. So we're anticipating that. What I didn't want to do is certainly didn't want to go back to you a fourth time in the event that
so there's still a little uncertainty.
There's still a little bit of uncertainty. So this request is a conservative one. It's possible that we don't need the full $2 million, but we're all kind of thinking that we're going to need the full $2 million.
Further questions? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Chair, if I could make one last comment. It's regarding the IHA group and their willingness to kind of stick with this transaction. It's been a decade now, and they have not gone away. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. IE Group for perseverance.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Chris. Okay, before we go on to the report of the executive director, I'm going to recess for 10 minutes, and then we'll be back at 10:25.
With all the metal rule. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're back from recess and we are on section 4 of our agenda, which is a report by the executive director. I'd like to turn it over to our director, Dean Minikami.
Are there folks want to testify first?
Actually, I think we'll take your report first, and then if there's anyone that wants to testify on it, we'll take testimony.
Cynthia Nyros first to give.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Cynthia Nyros, Legislative Coordinator for HHFDC. The legislative session ended last Friday. The governor's bill review period begins. He has until June 25 to inform the legislature of any bills he intends to veto. Here's a few bills we supported that we hope he'll sign into law. House Bill 1760, House Draft 1, Senate Draft 1, Conference Draft 1 enables private activity bond recycling for qualified housing projects. House Bill 2090, House Draft 1, Senate Draft 2, Conference Draft 1 allows for the adaptive reuse of existing commercial buildings for residential housing. Senate Bill 2337, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 2, Conference Draft 1 allows the counties to issue bonds for mixed-use projects. And Senate Bill 2133, House Draft 1, Conference Draft 1 allows HHFDC to issue bonds to help finance regional, state infrastructure projects on state lands. The approved budget bill for fiscal year 2025 contains $180 million for the Rental Housing Revolving Fund and $50 million for the Dwelling Unit Revolving Fund and General Obligation Funds. $25 million for Tier 2 and General Funds, and our ceiling increase, which allows for 3 much-needed positions, a LIHTC consultant, software for the finance branch, training workshops, and Maui travel expenses. Lastly, I would like to thank the following individuals for being part of the HHFDC Ledge team and your willingness to provide information, often last minute and outside normal business hours. Craig Hirai, David Oy, Holly Asumi, Gail Nishimoto, Randy Chu, Dean Watasi, Hunter Miller, and most importantly, Dean Minikami and Chris Woodard. The last two especially for editing and reviewing each of the 167 testimonies we submitted over the past couple of months. Session waits for no one, and you all understand that. I'm proud to work with such a dedicated team.
Thank you. How many hours collectively do we represent?
Oh, we lost track. We can start together.
I would like to thank Cynthia because she's the one that coordinated all of our efforts. It's a very challenging task to track all the bills, which come out just a few days before the hearings, prepare the testimony, route it to the right person, and submit them in the required time. She did a great job.
So thank you, Director Salvador, going through.
Anything we can do to help.
Any questions, directors?
So Cynthia gave some highlights of the legislation. So for some of these items we're already working on implementing, such as we did receive a operating ceiling increase. One of the items there is for us to hire a consultant to modernize our LIHTC application process. So we issued an RFP to find a software vendor last week. So we hope to have that software vendor on board in summer and to use that software for next year's funding round. So that will replace the 6-inch thick binders that we receive every year, the electronic process where staff can review them all on their computer and do analysis without having to re-input all the data that's given to them on paper. For Maui wildfire, there are multiple agencies working on recovery efforts, including Lieutenant Governor's Office, Department of Human Services, DOT, and others. So the Governor's Office has asked HHFDC to take more of a lead role in the recovery efforts. So in that regard, I asked Randy Chu and his staff to form a team specifically for Maui recovery. And they will be taking on more work of the recovery. For the Kalai'ula project, which we touched upon briefly when we talked about the Hilohana project. Kalai'ula is a project being led by the Department of Human Services and supported by HHFDC. It's about 70 acres in size and includes a construction of 450 temporary units. Unlike the Hilohana project, the infrastructure at Kalai'ula is being built to a permanent standard. And the intent is when the temporary units are no longer needed, land will be transferred to DHHL and they can build permanent housing for their beneficiaries on the Kalai'ula site. As you might recall, Leili is ceded lands and there is discussion between us and DHHL to transfer lands at Leili to DHHL. So it will make the most sense to transfer the Kalai'ula lands to DHHL since it is adjacent to their existing properties. So DHS is leading the Kalai'ula build. Randy and his team are supporting infrastructure development there.
Yes.
Since these are ceded lands, and since there is a 20% entitlement to pulp in addition to 30% to DHHL, but the discussion that go on that to transfer to DHHL.
I'm not sure how the OHA payment comes into play here. I know for our affordable housing properties, income received for rents is exempt from that payment because affordable housing is an authorized use of ceded lands. It's only if there's non-affordable housing activity that is subject to the 20%, such as if you have a convenience store or if you have a laundry operation, the 20% of that revenue goes to OHA.
So the conveyance of money between HHFDC and DHHL. So, for a certain that the conveyance would also trigger
The effect conveyance includes a fee payment because this would be gratis to the department.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
With respect to the Hagai Institute, our contractor there has been renting the rooms for occupancy. The rooms now we have 175 rooms total at the facility. I believe there are about 40 rooms that are now ready to accept survivors. Right now, we're just finalizing occupancy agreements with the state's contractor, which is GEMS, who is basically, for eligible survivors, they route them to different options, which includes Hagai Hale'ulaie, as that is called now, or Airbnb, or other options that the state has. So once we finalize all the paperwork we need to at GEMS, they can start referring survivors to Hale'ulaie. And we anticipate that happening in the next week or so. For the emergency proclamation on housing, which might recall that HHFDC assumed the functions of the Build Beyond Barriers group. And HHFDC on its own can grant waivers from the school impact fees. The proclamation also allows certain zoning waivers, which must be granted by the counties. So the past month, we have granted waivers of school impact fees for Parkway Village 6 and Parkway Village 7. There's two separate projects in the couple area. And the gateway rentals at Ho'opili have also applied for suspension of the school impact fee. And they're also requesting the suspension of zoning regulations, which will have to be approved by the county.
Quick question, just going back to the Hagai issue. Hagai's anticipated operating costs going forward is going to be about $6 million.
Rough, between $5 and $6 million a year. Yes.
Is there any thoughts around recovery of those costs from the individuals?
Right now, there wasn't going to be a fee charged to survivors, but we were looking at charging non-survivor occupants, such as if there are contractors, there's excess capacity and contractors can stay, yeah, we will be charging contractors a rate.
I'm just kind of thinking from the standpoint of the individuals that involved, say for the previous regime. Judge can take a look at that situation. And I'm sorry, Chair, but this is kind of a larger discussion on what we're doing for housing. Some of those individuals that may be in Hagai may be people that are eligible for rental assistance programs through their insurance. If that's recoverable, is there a process for which we can go and try to get them recovered?
That is something that we've been talking to DHS about. If there are some means to collect, yes, the rental assistance payments that the insurance is providing. And that is something we need a uniform policy for all the state properties, including Crayola, for example, which is going to be coming online this year.
Okay, if I can request, maybe the board give you authority to send an actual letter to the Department of Human Services requesting them to look into that so that we can get it on the record. Because it's something that, again, you know, we all know costs associated to the health risks continue to be large. There are sources of funding that we can tap that can continue to help these survivors that are not, that essentially we're leaving on the table. We do everything we can since we own Hagai, because HHFDC is the one that's asking for the additional infusion from the major disaster fund. But if that does run out, HHFDC is going to end up having to eat that cost, or if not, just charge DHS for it. Maybe an official letter to DHS just requesting resolution on the articulation.
We have periodic meetings with DHS to talk about how we rate this. So this has been something we have been talking about, and it's a matter of formalizing a policy by state agencies involved in providing housing on how we're going to be uniformly doing this. But yes, this is something we need to address.
Screening criteria.
Yeah, for example, some of the screen criteria we're looking at are criminal background checks. Of course, there are concerns about, for example, if a person has a certain criminal background history, they should not be allowed staying at Hollywood. So we're working on what the criteria should be for people staying at Hollywood. And right now, the threshold criteria is if you are a convicted sex offender, for example, or convicted of basically not substance abuse, but drug trafficking, you could not stay there.
But GEMS is doing that.
No, they have said that we have to do it ourselves. That's another issue that we have to work out, that it should be done at a centralized level. It shouldn't be each agency doing their own background check. It should be.
That doesn't make any sense to me, because if I'm not mistaken, I thought GEMS was really the disaster management coordinator that's supposed to get these individual things.
So that's the kind of things that we're working through right now. that it would make sense for GEMS to do the screening because they're referring survivors to different options. So they should do the screening and know what the different options are required. If we have a threshold that we can't accept certain people, they have to find another accommodation for these folks. So for now, to expedite the process, we'll do the screening. Or our contract will do the screening. But this is something that, yes, it should be centralized and not put upon individual agencies. And just the last thing for the finance awards, the 9% awards will be forthcoming next month, and 4% awards likely in July.
Any other questions for?
Question. Report mentions questions about how does it affect issue?
Water well is needed for Kamakana Villages, which is HHFDC's master plan community, to proceed. We thought we were close to an agreement with water well. As you might recall, like almost 2 years ago now, the Water Commission did approve the well construction permit for water well, but they did so with unprecedented conditions, including monitoring of the nearshore waters in perpetuity, which is something that we objected to, that it's never been imposed on any other applicant. It's an unknown cost. We could not agree to that condition. So know-how for the past year has been working with the community to amend that condition. So basically, a level of water sampling that with the known cost that we could, NOHA and HHFDC felt was reasonable. There was an objection to that proposal at the Water Commission hearing. So the Water Commission has deferred action for another few months. Basically, water well is in limbo right now. We cannot proceed with construction of water well given the conditions that were imposed upon it. So unless the conditions are amended, we cannot proceed. So we'll have to see what happens at the next commission meeting.
Testimony. Thank you for.
Are we talking about finance report?
Oh, we have one more report. I'd like to go ahead and take the testimony.
Pardon my excitement when you guys were talking about ceded lands here. So just to be clear, I think people don't really understand what ceded lands is. It's a part of the lands that were ceded to the U.S. government at the time of the overthrow and then brought back during the time of the Timber Territory. There are 5 basic uses for ceded lands mandated by the Admissions Act. One of these are affordable housing, transportation, education, farms, and the 5th one is to better the conditions of Native Hawaiians as defined by the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. So when Leali'i first came into being, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs initiated a lawsuit against HHFDC, or HFDC at the time, saying that they were supposed to get the highest and best use money for those properties. Well, the court shut them down big time. They got their money. And so the law was changed to allow for OHA to continue to gain revenue from the sale and use of ceded lands, providing that there was a profit being made. So when it came to affordable housing, it was just a matter of OHA saying gratis. And that would be done in a board of trustees meeting. And so far, they haven't said anything in opposition to that. So yeah, it was kind of interesting when I was hearing the conversation. I'm like, I know. Thank you once again for the opportunity to submit testimony on the finance branch status report. You already know who I am, but what I didn't fail to share with you is that I'm also a beneficiary advocate. So I advocate on behalf of beneficiaries for the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act, have been for the past 30 years. So on your finance status report, you have two specific projects listed in item 1A, 1B, B4, and item C. And that is a courtyards at Waipoli on the island of Kauai and Hanapepe residential lots 2A. There is a concern that is being brought forward to you regarding the placement on your consolidated application. The Waipolia courtyards is being acquired by the Department of Flying Homelands. It is 100% occupied by non-Hawaiians or non-beneficiaries, I should say. This information came to us back in November to KPCOA through working with a tenant who was being evicted. That the department was looking to acquire this property. In January of this year, the commission made a decision to actually acquire the courtyards at Waipoli. We're using federal dollars, Nahasa money, which comes with the Uniform Relocation Act requirements. Now, since the department's interest was made public, the residents at Waipoli have not been informed of the acquisition, nor have they been informed that if they are not 50% Hawaiian, they won't be able to stay there. In April of last year, a tenant from Waipoli presented themselves at the Hawaiian Homes Commission meeting and made a request of the commission to provide a copy of the Uniform Relocation Plan. He was informed at the time that the department does not have one. Okay, so I'm not sure if any of you know what that document looks like. It's 15 pages long. It's got like 150 different pieces. To assume that if Waipoli is awarded any LIHTC or Hulame multifamily funds, that there'll be enough time to be able to respond to the development of a URA plan and be able to move these people out in a timely manner. Or whether or not their current budget provides for sufficient funding to meet the URA requirements. The other item is a Hanapepe residential lots 2A. It's an 82 unit project built in Hanapepe for Hawaiian Homelands. In January, the commission was presented with a Hanapepe LIHTC project for the whole 82 units. After intense debate at the commission table, the commission decided to not do it as a LIHTC project, 100%. Coincidentally, as I'm scrolling through your budget, right, your packet, I see Hanapepe residential lots 2A is 30 of those units are requesting funding from LIHTC. The commission doesn't know that. They already said no. The community doesn't know that. They already said no. They also said no to Waipoli. So my concern is that it's going to go in as part of your consolidated application. And I'm not sure exactly what that process entails or whether or not, if all these projects get funded, what happens if the deal falls through, right? And so I'm not sure if it's appropriate to ask you to defer those two projects in your application now or not. But I think that it's important that you are aware of what's happening on the island of Kauai between these 82 families that are looking at possibly getting evicted with no place to go and the 1,500 applicants on the Hawaiian Homelands wait list for Kauai Island. I can also tell you that the residents of Waipoli is solid workforce. You've got doctors, you got other medical personnel, you got dentists, you got workforce guys working 2-3 jobs. If they don't have a place to live, they're going to be leaving. There was one nurse practitioner who specialized in oncology on the island of Kauai. She left Kauai because she couldn't afford rent. So now any cancer treatment that is required by patients are now having to apply to Oahu to get their treatment. So workforce situation on Kauai is very dire. We cannot afford to not have any kind of affordable housing available for them. Waipoli is fully occupied by many segments of the workforce, and to not have a plan for transition out of there into another place in Kapa'a or on Kauai is going to bring more economic harm to the county. And so, thank you very much.
There are two residents able to testify by Zoom today.
Okay, were you gonna give testimony?
Yeah.
If you'd like to.
Yeah, so my name is Candice Normal Gibson. I'm the policy director for KP COA. And from a policy standpoint, evicting one group of people that's direly needed, which is workforce, for another group of people, Hawaiian Homelands beneficiaries that not a single one on Kauai has said they want to move in there, is very concerning from a housing policy standpoint, because you're pitting two groups against each other who should really be working together. And anytime we create zero-sum games in housing where it's the environmentalists and the affordable housing people pitting them against each other. We also have many Hawaiian families living at Waipoli. They're just not 50% Hawaiian. So to have them be evicted on behalf of beneficiaries who have actually come to testify and say that they do not want to move into rental situations, I just think from a housing policy standpoint is not a good way forward. And I wouldn't want to set that as a precedent for how we spend public money, because it's serious public money going into this project. We're talking about a $59 million project funded by this agency and also the Department of Hawaiian Homeland. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Anyone who is attending remotely, if you'd like to give testimony, this would be the time. Anyone?
Hello.
Hi, Linda.
My name is Linda. I'm going to try to turn on my video, but I don't know if that will work.
Your volume's a little soft, so let's see if we can adjust.
Okay. Can you hear me any better now?
No, sorry.
Oh. I don't know what to do about that. All right, let me try one more time. I might let Sam go while I try to figure this out. Okay. So you guys still can't hear me well, right?
Let's see if we can adjust you or your volume here. Try now.
How about now?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. I'm a resident at Courtyards at Waipoli, and Kenna spoken well to our issue. We have not been notified of any type of URA plan for us. And what I wanted to bring up in addition, rather than repeating what's already been said, is this subject. There was a meeting in January 26th. It was an all-day meeting, which was held by the DHHL in order to take public testimony. At that time, a number of people brought up the issue that there is no comparable housing to relocate people to. The feeling that I had, and I feel that others had, is that that was essentially ignored. And it is important because it is a requirement. It is obviously, I'm sure all you know, that URA expects that any displaced person will be given comparable housing. And the problem we have on Kauai, and I apologize for those of you who are intimately familiar with this, is we do not have comparable housing to Courtyards at Waipoli. So for instance, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And one of my neighbors has a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And I've run 50 searches over the last 3.5 weeks on Kauai on 7 different platforms such as Zillow.com, Apartment.com, Craigslist, and I put in the specifics of our apartments, and there's not one single apartment in all of Kauai that matches. This isn't there's no when we say there is no comparable housing, it's not hyperbole. There really isn't any. Now, that is not entirely true when you get to one bedrooms. You can find some one bedrooms in Kauai. It's tough to find them that are truly comparable. So you've got a situation where the state is required to meet the UAR, handle the displaced persons, to find comparable housing before displacing anybody, and yet it doesn't exist. So I'm not quite sure how you go forward on a project where you can't meet the requirements. So I'm hoping that the board will hear this and look into what kind of planning could be done. Is there anything that could be done? I am aware that there is exception handling put into the URA federal code that says when there's no comparable housing, you can essentially, and this is my layman's version of it, essentially put a lot more money in the budget and find ways around it by in a coordination with the residents. So that's my testimony, and I'm hoping that you'll hear the issue, and before considering an approval, make sure that it is handled appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Is there anyone else like to give testimony? Thanks again.
Mr. I see there's a Chase and Sam in the building right now.
You're not letting me in. The video is off.
Oh,
there we go.
We
Let's
can
try
hear
this.
you. There you go. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Wampler, and I'm also a resident at the courtyards at Waipoli. I was last month at the meeting over in Molokai, and I expressed my opinion on the DHHL's plan to try to purchase the property. Although I don't think it's entirely, it isn't a bad idea to purchase it, and the whole idea and drive is totally, heartfelt and good for the whole system. But after looking through and seeing a couple things, the way about it, I believe, is it's not the right choice. So one of the things that was mentioned at the Molokai meeting that I attended was there was a comment basically where we had mentioned about a co-op that was being introduced to the idea of purchasing the courtyards as well. And it was going to be a workforce related kind of co-op for the apartments. But at the meeting, they had there was a comment kind of made where it was like, oh, so we are in competition with you. And it's not exactly saying something like that. The courtyards actually was approached first by the co-op months before the DHHL had kind of noticed it and gotten it on its radar. And now it's not exactly that we're in competition, but after seeing the pushback from benefactors not interested in getting apartments, but also people here in the apartments that are already here not wanting to leave, because as Linda had just mentioned, there is no place to go. I myself, I have 2 dogs, and courtyards allows animals, pets, but for the entire 4 years I've been in Kauai, I have been looking for a different place to live, and nobody wants me because I have 2 dogs. I get it. Dogs could be destructive, but I digress. That's it. There is a huge stress on that housing market for the workforce people that are there. And I think that for everybody's best interest, I think that the way to go would be to really rethink this DHHL plan of purchasing the courtyards and just seeking other alternatives to it. Because like Kenneth said earlier, there's kind of this dynamic where we're now creating where there's like two sides, where there's the DHHL and then there's like the local workforce. And it's almost now we're feeling a pin against. What's that?
Can you wrap up, Sam, your testimony?
Yep. So it's like, nobody at the courtyards wants to feel like that we're in this dynamic power struggle with that. And so, we do support the DHHL, but at the same time, a lot of us feel that this decision, we could be looking in different directions. Thank you for your time, and I hope you really consider the things that have been brought to you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to give testimony? If not,
That's Chase. He's
well, is she?
I think that I saw
my video. If you guys can hear me, I just can't go on his video. It's not allowing me.
I'll go right ahead. We can hear you well.
You guys can hear me instead, okay? Pretty much all what the my fellow residents did, because I am also a resident in Waipouli Courtyard. I don't want to repeat what's been said. I'll just add on what's been said. So basically, we hadn't got no warning, no notice about any of this, what's going on. Basically, if the co-op didn't come and reach out to us, we wouldn't have known what would be happening right underneath our nose. So, and like I got sources, and my sources say DHHNL are stepping and moving forward. I am totally against that, and whoever's working with them, I wish that they don't. And it's bad because you're trying to relocate all of us out of that place. And it's super hard to find a place on the island. It's not affordable. And I too have 2 dogs. That has to play in factor. I'm going to keep it short and simple. All I'm saying is don't go for it. Do what's right. Yes, you're helping out the Hawaii people, but they don't want to move there. Speaking from a resident myself. All right. You guys have a good rest of your day. Aloha.
I think that covers it. Okay. Come on up.
Aloha, good morning. My name is Samaria Dao. I'm the Communications Director for Kupono Kalea Pa'aina, the housing advocacy organization. So I just wanted to bring up that there is actually already a rent-to-purchase option development, the Bolodrome that DHHL has. And they went to the Lahaina meeting and mentioned that they are having a hard time filling those units because nobody that is a beneficiary wants to live in these apartments. Now there's 10,500 people on the wait list for DHHL, and they're having a hard time finding 278 people want to live there. So to recreate this would be a huge mistake, obviously, if they're coming back asking to put non-beneficiaries into these units, which totally defeats the purpose of DHHL acquiring it in the first place. So I just wanted to bring that up. And, I just wanted to kind of see that it would be nice for future that if HHFDC would actually invest into housing cooperative models. Thank you.
Your testimony. Somebody. So, Dean, do you have anything else you want to?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Decision on fully courtyards already made, and how long ago was that? And
So they applied for this year's funding round. They submitted a 4% and a 9% application. So both the 4% and 9% are still being reviewed. We're not going to make the first award until next month for the 9% application, and the 4% application will follow that. So there has been no determination yet at all as to which projects will be awarded.
Any other questions, directors? If not, I guess I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all.
Right, you see what happened.